Well, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking the time. And thank you for the organizers of the event for letting me participate today. I'm excited to be here as well. As was mentioned a moment ago, the topic of my presentation is courting OKRs controversy. I'm going to go ahead here. And I am having trouble. Let's see. Okay. I'm not exactly sure how to advance my slides in this medium. So if somebody could help me, that would be terrific. And, well, I won't waste time on that. I will work through the slide. There we go. Thank you. What? No, that's it. That was from 2 years ago. So maybe we have another one here. This is it. I'll just work through them. Apologies for technical problems, but my topic that I wanted to speak with you about today, and the slides don't really matter. I'd love to just speak with you about that. Yeah, need to control. Let's see. Yeah. I'm just going to work through this, everybody. It's more important that we have a dialogue here rather than me going through slides anyway. So, what I wanted to talk to you today is about this idea of courting OKRs controversy. It's really interesting. I've been working in the strategy execution field now for about 30 years, and I've seen a lot of systems come and go. Some have become very popular and then waned in their popularity. Others have maintained their popularity for a long time. OKRs has probably gotten has more fast than any other system I've encountered, has gotten incredibly popular incredibly quickly. And because of that, we've all, of course, been studying OKRs as practitioners, as consultants, as coaches. And I think a lot of the rules of what makes for an effective OKR implementation are well known. And a lot of the speakers today have talked about that. We all know that OKRs should be derived from strategy. We've had several speakers talk about the importance of strategy. We know that OKRs should be few in number. That's really important as well, so that we're prioritizing really what matters most. We know that OKRs should be frequently updated. So a lot of what's known about OKRs it has been shared. What I'd like to talk about today are some of the areas where I think we don't have complete agreement, where there's still some disagreement, and why that's important. So when you look at the history of disagreement, of course, it's and how it leads to improved results. We can look at virtually any field. Think of astronomy. For millennia, everybody thought that the Earth was kind of at the center of the solar system, and it wasn't until 1543 and Copernicus and later Galileo showed it that the sun was at the center, and that paved the way for modern astronomy. You could look at economics. The Great Depression of almost 100 years ago, we saw that a lot of people thought that markets would just improve on their own, full employment would be achieved, and everything would be fine. And of course, that wasn't the case as well, as we saw. And it was only through work of people like John Maynard Keynes where we saw that government intervention was so important that we led the way to modern macroeconomic policy. So debate and disagreement leads to improvement. Peter said in his conversation with you that he was trying to stimulate a debate, and that's what I'm going to try to do as well. I want to talk about a few areas where I think disagreement still reigns, and we haven't got quite complete agreement on OKRs and why that's important. And the first topic I'll discuss with you is milestone versus metric OKRs. And everything I'm going to talk with you about today, I think, is practical and grounded in reality. All of you listening in today, you're either an OKR coach or an OKR practitioner. So what I'm going to speak with you about are things that are going to come up naturally in an OKR's implementation. So let's start with this idea of milestone versus metric OKRs. I think we all know what a metric key result is. Of course, it's got a number, a dollar amount, a percentage. That's a metric. A milestone is just that. It's a binary, typically an activity that we either achieve or we don't achieve. And there are a lot of people in the OKR world that say there's no place for milestone key results. We have to have metrics only. And oh, here we go. Great. There we go. Thank you so much for helping me out here. So is there a place for milestone key results? And again, a lot of purists would say, no, we only have to have metrics. We should be talking about value-based pardon me, key results only. But I believe for a number of reasons that milestone key results can be beneficial to us. And when is that the case? Well, I think, a lot of speakers have talked already today about the value of key results being new and innovative and experimental. And often the value you'll get from an OKRs program is in measuring things for the first time. So discovering those new key results are going to unlock hidden value. Well, often that value you're striving for, that thing you're going to measure, is new and you've never been there before, and it's difficult to measure. And that's where milestone key results can actually be your friend. Let's look at a very simple personal example. I know a lot of people, when New Year rolls around, people want to get more fit. It's a very common New Year's resolution, a common goal. And they'll immediately start doing things like tracking calorie counts and number of trips to the gym. Those are very metric based, right? But are you getting the right calories? Are you doing the right exercises in the gym? It would probably be beneficial to back up and say, well, the first thing I'm going to do is create a comprehensive program based on my unique needs, right? That's a milestone. I'm going to create the program and then I'm going to execute it. So milestones can be very impactful when whatever you're measuring is new and innovative for you. Milestone key results can help you demonstrate progress. I think this is important as well. Imagine that you have an objective like, we're going to improve our website to increase inbound leads. Okay, that's a good objective. And a key result might be increase inbound leads from 150 to 200. Well, you're not going to simply wait to the end of the quarter and say, did we achieve those 200 inbound leads? You want to be making progress throughout the entire quarter. So maybe you're going to rewrite the services page or the About Us page on your website. That's a milestone key result, but you believe it's going to drive activity to the website, which will then lead to those inbound leads. So we're demonstrating progress throughout the quarter, which is a really powerful aspect of milestone key results. Finally, they can plug gaps in your strategic story. Some of you might know that my most recent book, I'm going to put it up right here, is OKRs for Dummies. And when I was writing that book, it was very important to me because I took some time off to write the book, that I didn't lose, obviously, any consulting clients. I didn't want my clients to defect or go to another consultant because I was busy writing the book. And so, of course, I wrote an OKR about that I wanted to minimize any client defections or any client distractions. And I want to keep them at zero. So a very metric-based key result. And when I was analyzing my set of key results, I realized I was missing one. A very important part of my strategic story in making sure I wrote hopefully a quality book and didn't have any gaps in my consulting work was to ensure that I actually produced the manuscript on time. So delivering the manuscript on time was an important milestone that led to me being able to maintain my work with my clients. So milestones can actually achieve a number of benefits if used correctly. So how do you use a milestone correctly? You always include a date. So how fast can we achieve this? How can we stretch ourselves without sacrificing quality? That's really critical. We ensure that they predict a metric-based key result. So we can't have all milestones and use our OKRs as a kind of a Gantt chart or a to-do list. We want to make sure that they drive a metric key result. And so, of course, we always accompany them with one of those metric key results. But again, for those of you who are using OKRs, I encourage you to determine whether or not you think milestones can be effective. And I believe when used well, they can. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you so much. Universal alignment. So this is something I know we've a lot of us have talked about John Doerr today and measure what matters. And one of the superpowers of OKRs is alignment. And when we talk about alignment in this way, we're really referring to the process of developing OKRs at the highest level of the organization, and then having business units or departments or teams or squads or tribes, depending on your terminology, demonstrate their contribution to overall success by aligning with those high-level objectives. Sometimes it's considered or called cascading or connecting. So developing that alignment from top to bottom. Is that possible? And is it even desirable? Well, I'm not sure it is. And I've got a few reasons for that. Number one, when you think about the history of organizations, we've just become more and more specialized, haven't we, over the years? We've got chief marketing officers, we've got chief strategy officers, we've got operations, we've got customer service. Organizations are chopped up and very specialized. And those specialized functions are, well, specialized. I think a lot of times when you're developing connected or aligned OKRs, if you're in sales, it's very easy to align to a revenue goal at the company level. If you're in operations, it's probably easy to connect to a key result at the company level about efficiency or effectiveness of processes. Not so when you get a little deeper into the organization or you get into very specialized functions like finance, legal, for example, sometimes struggle. And I've seen organizations that really force this alignment function where every group has got to determine how they align to a company level objective, even if it's obviously a force fit. It's not really adding value, but they're going through the motions. And in that case, your OKR process can become almost a tick the box exercise where you're not getting the true value because you're just, again, you're kind of growing through the motions. So I think it's important to allow all departments, all functions within an organization to align to company objectives whenever possible. But if not, give them the discretion, the autonomy to do their own thing. So speaking of autonomy, look at that third bullet. Remember the Kmart blue light special. I know a lot of you probably are unfamiliar with Kmart. It was a large department store chain in the United States, around North America, around the world, that has since certainly gone out of favor. In fact, I had to look up before the presentation today, are there any Kmart stores left? And apparently there's still 12, remarkably, in the United States. But at one time, it was a remarkably successful department store chain. And way back in 1965, a manager at a Kmart store in Indiana had a really smart idea. He had some inventory in his store that wasn't selling, and he didn't know what to do. So he somehow rigged up a blue flashing police light. He hooked that up above the merchandise, and over the loudspeakers, he would blare, today only these blue light specials. So he created a lot of urgency, a lot of scarcity around these items, and customers were excited. Customers responded, and they gobbled up these blue light specials. And not surprisingly, Kmart stores around the country copied that innovation. And what made it work is that if a store was in Florida, maybe their blue light special would be on buckets to take to the beach for sand. And maybe if it was in New York or somewhere north, it could be snow shovels in the winter. They had autonomy. Now, unfortunately, the chieftains at the head office of Kmart heard about this idea and they said, no, we know better. We're going to tell every store in the entire chain what their blue light specials should be, regardless of where they are, regardless of customer preferences, regardless of the climate. And of course, that destroyed the value of the whole blue light special. Autonomy is critical, whether we're talking retail or we're talking developing OKRs. We want to make sure that we give every department, every function, the autonomy so that they can look at the company level objectives and say, here's what we can plug in. But if we can't, here's what we can do. Here's an opportunity that we can take advantage of that demonstrates how we can get better as a department. So are the two ideas mutually exclusive? Do you have to either align to the company level or not? No. You can look to see wherever you can plug in. And if you can't, you can determine your own OKRs based on what you can do and what opportunities you do have. Okay, next slide, please. This is one of my favorite topics. Are OKRs universally applicable? So does that mean regardless of the organization, its size, its culture, will OKRs work? And I think the obvious answer is yes, because OKRs are focused on goal setting. And we know from decades of scientific research, goal setting works. But I think we need to dig a little bit deeper here. So if you're watching this program today and you're thinking about implementing OKRs, or if you're a coach and you get a prospective new client, you really need to think carefully, will OKRs work in their environment? So it depends on organization type. We know OKRs kind of came of age in the tech world, where they had that high and rapid rate of change. And of course, OKRs work beautifully in that because it's an agile goal setting system. It can be more challenging, however, with industries that have a slower rate of change. Think regulated utilities, pharmaceuticals, healthcare, some financial organizations. So OKRs can still work, but you have to temper your expectations. So those are organization types with slower rates of change. It's more about focus, alignment, and transparency on what matters. But it is going to impact your implementation. Culture is enormous. If your culture, or if you're a coach and a prospective client approaches you and you can see that culture is one that it's very command and control, very hierarchical, it's going to be difficult for OKRs to thrive in that environment, because we need cultures where transparency, collaboration, shared sense of learning and analysis, that's what really drives results. When you've got a lot of silos and failure is punished, it's going to be very, very difficult for OKRs to work in settings like that. I famously once, famous for me, was approached by an organization where the CEO kept all the information to himself. Not surprisingly, OKRs didn't work well there because there was no transparency, no shared sense of experimentation or learning. Size, does that matter? Well, I think it can. If yours is a small organization, you can have the challenge of resource constraints where you just don't have the resources of large organizations, but you can benefit from agility and collaboration, maybe being a small team where everybody knows one another, so you can really take advantage of transparency. Large organizations, they can do well with OKRs as well, but they can be resistant to change, so you have to be careful for that and make sure you have an organizational approach that really manages change. All right, next slide. Just a couple of quick topics to think about going forward. The topics I just mentioned, I've written extensively on, and you can see my thoughts there on LinkedIn. Here are some things I'm working on now. Can OKRs cause goal fatigue? This is a concern for me. If you're really subscribing to the ethos of OKRs as documented by John Doerr, where we stretch ourselves quarter after quarter, can that lead to burnout? I fear it can, if you're really sticking to the ethos of OKR setting. So how do you combat that? Be realistic. Limit the number of OKRs you have every quarter or every trimester, whatever your cadence is. Be realistic with your target setting as well. The more unrealistic you are, the more likely you are to have people burn out on their OKRs. Could a typical OKR cycle hinder long-term execution and innovation? Possibly. I think, again, with that quarterly cadence with OKRs, we have to be careful that we're not just looking for short-term wins at the expense or cost of long-term things like innovation and research and development. So I think it's important for all of us, whether we're at the company level or department level, really be thinking about simultaneously, where do we want to go long-term? And that's a subjective term, whether it's a year or more so than that. And where do we want to be quarter to quarter? So think about these two things. And I'm going to be writing extensively about these in the weeks ahead, and I'm anxious to hear your thoughts. But again, be realistic with your OKRs goal setting and make sure that you prioritize only really what matters. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. That's a quick walkthrough of some things that I think where we still got some agreement to work on with OKRs. And I would love to hear your thoughts, whether it's today during the forum or when I'll be posting these online. So thanks very much.
Thanks so much, Paul. It was a jam to hear you once more and see you here. So it's always a controversy, and we've been discussing a lot that one size doesn't fit at all. So thank you for sharing your insights. And also, I would like to remind everyone that there will be a recording. And in case the time zone is not suitable for you, if it's too early or too late, of course, there will be a chance to share the recordings and also for you to share as well. So now our last speaker will be on stage soon. Thanks so much, Paul. Before saying goodbye to you, let us check if there are any questions. I see that everybody's inspired with the speech, but we haven't received any questions or so ever. So, all right. Thanks, Paul.